Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahweh Shai. All praises, honor, and glory be unto Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rekai Kodash. Double honors to our apostles and elders at Great Millstone who taught us His truth and who rule well. Peace and love, salutations, and mercy be unto the hopeful elect. Euakim and Fuakwatium that believe in Yahweh Bahasham Yahweh Shai with their whole heart, mind, body, and spirit, and who are waiting for these last and for these final prophecies to unfold and happen in the earth, in the return of our Lord and Savior Yahweh Shai, who's coming back to redeem the hopeful elect of the nation of Israel. You know, this video is going to be about famine, and just a few articles that I ran across. Actually, there's 4 articles that I ran across, through the Spirit, and I believe that there's interesting things within them, to bring out, and mainly the scriptures, which are dealing with the prophecy, of famine coming, which people are already starting to see it, all across America and outside of America as well, within Canada, and all over. This is the prophecies of Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahweh Shai happening within our time. It's not happening, afar off, as people within their mediocre, brains, have concluded, that the word of Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahweh Shai wouldn't happen in their time just to fit their paradigm of belief, to fit their emotion, to soothe, their minds because of the fear, of the possibility, of a famine, or the terrible things that the scriptures mention, So you're seeing things affected, from orange juice, to bananas, gas prices, vegetables, meat, as well as produce. You're seeing household items, disappearing, and these things aren't making it to the shelves, and there's a few different reasons behind it. But I'll start with this article here, which is dealing with trucking, which there was a mandate that was put out, for truck drivers to receive, the juice, in which a lot of them didn't. But now, Canada has shut down their borders to the truckers that didn't receive the juice. All right. So make preparations. This is from Zero Hedge. Canadian cross-border trucker, juice mandate now in effect. Domestic trucking mandate start next week. Which this article was from, or maybe it was up there. I'm not as sure exactly when it was from, but the date that's on it is Monday, January 17th, 2022, the year of Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahweh Shai turning up. And it says the cross-border, juice mandate for truckers in and out of Canada is now in effect. The U.S. juice mandate takes effect on January 22nd. All right. So it's now January 19th, but it takes effect on January 22nd. And I just want to jump down. Basically, a certain quote on this. I think you probably won't see the movement that the government is looking for. All right, this is an individual from Canada, I guess, that's making this quote. Retail expert Bruce Winder told CTV News Channel on Saturday when asked if the efforts will encourage truckers to get the juice. And the answer is no. You're not going to see the movement that you're looking for. Now, reading on, the mandate throws a major wrench in the Canadian and North American supply chains, he added, with grocers, food producers, the auto parts industry, and building materials among the sectors expected to be most affected. I really hope that we're not at the stage where you see food insecurities, where you're actually going to grocery stores and there's nothing on the shelf wider said. That could be the worst case scenario. And that reminds me of Elder Yeshawamba, who used to always mention, the worst case scenario, the worst thing possible that you can imagine, or rather that you're going to experience. All right. But the thing is, you are, going to see, food insecurities. And what is food insecurities? Is it the disappearing of food? Food security is the measure of availability of food and individuals' ability to access it, according to the United Nations Committee on World Food Security. It says food security is defined as meaning that all people at all times have physical, social, and economic access to sufficient, safe, and nutritious food that meets their food preference and dietary need for an active and healthy life. The availability of food, irrespective of class, gender, or region, is another one. There is evidence of food security being concerned many thousands of years ago, with central authorities in ancient China and ancient Egypt being known to release food from storage in times of famine. They mentioned Egypt, which that happened in Egypt, going back during the times when Joseph, was second in command in Egypt, and there was 7 years of a dearth, and there were 7 years of plenty, followed by 7 years of dearth. And the 7 years of dearth is when there was a lack of food. And with the lack of food also comes, things like rivers being dried up, extreme weather, other things that could disrupt the supply chain. Not just money. Because you see that within Egypt, when you go back and read it, they had money, they had lands, they had chattel, but there was a drought, that happened that disrupted the food, so look out for, what they would consider acts of God, which would be extreme weather events, that causes, food not to go out from places, that causes truck drivers not to be able to drive. But then there's a shortage, of drivers, and that shortage of drivers is also driving, the prices of goods to go up. Now, this is another article from Zero Hedge, and it says experts are warning that empty shelves and food shortages are going to continue for many weeks to come. It says from an economic standpoint, an extraordinary amount of lasting damage has been done over the past 2 years. A seemingly endless list of major problems has thrown thousands upon thousands of critical supply chains into a complete and utter state of chaos. And this has resulted in some very painful shortages. For quite a while, the mainstream media kept insisting that the shortages would soon be gone. But now they are being forced to admit the truth. And the reason why they were doing that is to keep the people, within the mind state of not going crazy. All right, not losing their mind. If you can believe it, NPR has even published a major story about this, all right, about the growing shortages in this country. Now you're not imagining it. All right, some grocery stores' shelves are bare again, conjuring bad memories of spring 2020 for many. So people are already seeing this. You go to the grocery store, if it's not missing, the prices are exorbitant. A price of meat, one roast, you'll probably be paying, $200 for it. You know, uh, um, a pack of chicken, you probably pay about 75, 65 bucks for it, for a family size serving. And what's not missing, you know, the prices are way up high. Social media is in rife with images of empty supermarket aisles and signs explaining the lack of available food and other items. Stores such as Aldi's have apologized to customers for the shortages. Nobody in the mainstream media ever imagined that the shortages would last as long. For certain items such as computer chips, the duration of the shortages is now approaching 2 4 years. Of course, fear of the O has made things even worse. One expert interviewed by NPR suggests that supermarkets in the U.S. are now facing a perfect storm. Now, I'm going to jump down, and it says, one of the major issues that supermarkets on the East Coast are currently facing is greatly increased shipping costs. Many Americans don't realize this, but much of the fresh produce that we enjoy is actually grown in a handful of Western states. In fact, 99% of walnuts, 97% of kiwis, 97% of plums, 95% of celery, 95% of 95% of garlic, 89% of cauliflower, 71% of spinach, 69% of carrots grown in the United States come from the states of California. And what about the things that come from Canada? To get all of the produce to stores in the East has always been a major production, but today it has also become exceedingly expensive. Growers of perishable produce across the West Coast are paying nearly triple pre-pandemic trucking rates to ship things like lettuce and berries before they spoil. Shay Meyer, CEO of Aoyi Produce, which grows onions, watermelons, and asparagus along the borders of Idaho and Oregon, said he has been holding off shipping onions to retail distributors until freight costs go down. Meyer said transportation disruption in the last 3 weeks caused by lack of truck drivers and recent highway blocking storms have led to a doubling of freight costs for fruit and vegetable producers on top of already elevated pandemic prices. We typically will ship East Coast to West Coast. We used to do it for about 7,000, he said. Today, about somewhere between 18,000 and 22,000. So what were some of the things that were affecting him? Storms, highway blocking storms, and doubling freight costs. So who's causing those storms? And who's causing the disruption really? Which attribution can be given into Esau, but that's not who's truly causing it. It's the Most High Heavenly Father that causes Esau to do the things that he's doing in the earth. It's the Most High Heavenly Father that controls the kings. It's the Most High Heavenly Father that controls the weather. So it's Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushua that's really causing these things to happen. Now, another thing is that's mentioned within, this article is the lack of workers. All right. It says here the consumer packaged goods industry is missing around 120,000 workers, out of which only 1,500 jobs were added last month, she said, while the National Grocers Association said that many of the grocery store members were operating with less than 50 of their workforce capacity. So not only is the price of goods increasing, but the help that you need, to fill these stores, has decreased. The prices of goods have increased. There's an inflation amongst goods because now it's costing more to get those goods to where they need to go. But then when you get them there, all right, these retail distributors have to pay more for them. All right. And on top of paying more for them, they also have to, pay more to their workers. So to offset that, they have to charge more for those goods. And then you have to also deal, with panic buying. Going over to, another article, which this one comes from RT. It says U.S. prices make biggest jumps in decades. All right, consumer prices in the U.S. made the biggest year-to-year jump since 1982. All right, the latest sign that rising inflation is negatively impacting working Americans. December's price increase followed a 6.8%, which that may not seem like much to you. All right, but that's a lot. Average rise the month before, according to the Labor Department data released on Wednesday. White House officials have claimed in recent months that increased spending by Americans have led to the rising cost of grocery items and gas. They have also blamed consumer spending for clogged ports and supply chain issues, which have also been driving up costs in multiple industries. Our commodities, shelter, and new used vehicles saw the biggest price jumps according to the latest data. Which I'm going to stop right there. But Yahweh Bashim Yahushai is causing, this disruption within Egypt and also within around the world. And by Egypt, that being the spiritual name for America, who carries, the attributes, of ancient Egypt. This was a place of bondage. This was a place that held the children of Israel in captivity. And now Yahweh Bashim Yahushai is visiting this place, according to what he said within the scriptures. He said that he would no longer hold his peace, concerning, the things that they have done unto his people. This is 2nd Ezra 15:10. Behold, my people is led as a flock to the slaughter. I will not suffer them now to dwell in the land of Egypt, but I will bring them with a mighty hand and a stretched out arm and smite Egypt with plagues as before, and will destroy the land thereof. Egypt shall mourn, and the foundation of it shall be smitten with plagues and punishments that Yahweh shall bring upon it. They that till the ground shall mourn for the seeds, and shall fail through the blasting and hell, and with a fearful consolation. So you got storms, and flooding and things like that that's wreaking havoc, on farmland. You got locusts, you got the pale worm, you got the canker worm, and things like that that's eating up vegetation and crops, and on top of that, you got supply chain issues, which is causing, the prices of goods, to go up. So Yahweh Bashim Yahushai is sending famine within the land. And when you go into scriptures like the book of Amos 4:6, it says, and I also have given you cleanness of teeth in all your cities and want of bread in all your places, yet have you not returned unto me, except Yahweh. In cleanness of teeth, when you eat, especially eating meat, or certain things, you have to clean out your teeth. You got to get a pick. You got to clean out your teeth. You got to floss. You may even have to, brush your teeth immediately after eating certain things. So cleanness of teeth representing not having any food. All right, Yahweh Bashim Yahushai is causing the want of bread, to be in all places. And during, this famine that's coming, and that's happening, but it's gonna get even worse than what it is now. The servants of Yahweh Bashim Yahushai is gonna eat, those prophets and men of the Lord that have been laboring. It's not, a bad thing to have certain things stirred up, such as oats, such as rice, such as non-perishable goods, certain canned goods, and not stacking it up, to the point where there's no room to maneuver around in your pantry, in your kitchen. But having just a few items on hand, pre-adventure that this thing break out, and you have to sit still for a couple seconds. But then we know that we're gonna be as pilgrims, upon the earth. So you're gonna have to leave those things, and you don't know where you're gonna end up and where you're at. But we understand and believe through faith that Yahweh Bashmi Awashara provide for us, such as within this example, 2 Kings 4:38, and Elisha came again to Jagal, and there was a dearth in the land, and the sons of the prophets were sitting before him. And he said unto his servants, set on the great pot, and seethe pottage for the sons of the prophets. And one went out into the fields to gather herbs, and found a wild vine, and gathered therein wild gourds in his lap, and came and shred them into the pot of pottage, and they knew them not. Which shows you that within the time of famine, there's certain things that grow in the field, that grow, in certain places that you can eat. All right, such as a milk thistle, dandelions, and other, things that grow out there wild, that you don't really have too much knowledge about, because that's not something that we taught, but through the spirit and power of Yahweh Bashmi Awashai, and Yahweh Bashmi Awashai can cause you to come across that knowledge, that can help you in a time of trouble. So reading on, it says, so they poured out, to the men, and it came to pass that they were eating of the pottage, and they cried out and said, O thou man of God, there is death in the pot, because it, the taste, was pretty bad. So they like, this tastes like death, But reading on, it says, and they could not eat thereof, So I thought that was pretty funny. But he said, then bring meal and cast it into the pot. And he said, pour out for the people, and they that they may eat. And there was no harm in the pot, and there came a man from Baal Shalisha, and brought the men of Yahweh bread of the first fruits, 20 loaves of barley, full of ears of corn, and the husk thereof. And he said, give unto the people that they may eat. And his servitor said, what shall I set this before 100 men? He said again, give the people that they may eat. For thus saith Yahweh, they shall eat and shall leave thereof. So he set it before them, and they did eat and left thereof according to the words of Yahweh. So think of another time, that this happened, because that was with 100 men. Yahweh Shai did the same thing. When you go into the book of Luke 9:12, and when the day began to wear away, then came the 12 and said unto him, send the multitude away, that they may go into the towns and the countries round about and lodge and get victuals. For we are here in a desert place. But he said unto them, give ye them to eat. And they said, we have no more but 5 loaves and 2 fishes, except we should go and buy meat for all this people. For they were about 5,000 men. See? So Yahweh Shai did it unto 5,000 men. And he said to his disciples, make them sit down by 50s in a company. And they did so, and made them all sit down. Then he took 5 loaves and 2 fishes, and looking up into heaven, he blessed them, and brake and gave to the disciples to set before the multitudes. And they did eat and were all filled. And there was taken up of the fragments, the remnant, that remained, to them 12 baskets. So Yahweh Shai multiplied that food, all right, through spiritual power. All right, he made it to where 5 loaves and 2 fishes were sufficient enough to feed, 5,000. And afterwards, there were 12 baskets of fragments that were taken up that remained. So in the time of famine, all right, Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahweh Shai will provide for those that trust in him. But earlier, reading the article, it mentioned about food insecurities. It mentioned about food not being left on the shelf. There was one of these articles, all right, where somebody in the comment board, mentioned. Matter of fact, here it is. This is the article from one of the articles I read a little bit from. That one was from RT, and it said U.S. prices make biggest jump in decades. There was a person called Libertine, and it says the 750 billion that they gave the military-industrial complex to start more wars would have gone long way at home to alleviate that. But we're not in the time of that, and that's the reason why the scriptures say, and not just this nation, but dealing with other nations, all right, that they'll beat their pruning hooks into spears. All right. Joel 3:9, proclaim ye this amongst the Gentiles, prepare war, wake up the mighty men, let all the men of war draw near, let them come up, beat your plowshares into swords and your pruning hooks into spears, let the weak say I am strong. So the money that they would normally use for agriculture, for feeding the poor, all right, for growing crops, and food, they can put that into their economy, for food. All right, they're not using it for that purpose. They're using it for their military, all right, because this is a time of war. And really, when it comes down to the majority of people, the elites just look at you as useless eaters. 2 Ezra 6:22, and suddenly shall the sown places appear unsown, and the full storehouses shall suddenly be found empty. This was a popular scripture back in 2020, and it's still popular now. It's growing even more popular. All right, 2 Ezra 15:19. A man shall have no pity upon his neighbor, but shall destroy their houses with the sword and shall spoil their goods because of the lack of bread and of great tribulation. Because things are going to intensify. They're going to become so bad to the point where people war against each other just for the basic, pieces of food, the basic, things that you can eat, the smallest things. And why? Because those things that are the principal use for a man's life is being taken away. All right. And the scripture says this. Sirach 39:26, the principal things for the whole use of a man's life are water, fire, iron, and salt, flour of wheat, honey, milk, and the blood of the grape, and oil and clothing. All these things are for good to the godly, so to the sinners they are turned into evil. See, so unto the wicked, they're willing to war over these things, in order to get them, to take them away from people. And that's what's getting ready to happen. All right. Because of the lack of victuals. The book of 2 Ezra 16:21, behold, victuals shall be so good cheap upon the earth that they shall think themselves to be in good case. Even then shall evils grow upon the earth, sword, famine, and great confusion. Right, because there was a time, when these foods were readily available, when they were cheap, when they were coming in abundance. I remember a saying that was said amongst, certain jakes when you would waste food or you throw it in the trash. They'll say if some, hungry kid in Africa, they'll be happy to eat that, And that's pretty much like a joke or something that they would say. But now, America is like a third world country. When you have people starving because of food insecurities. All right, people can't afford food. All right, it's becoming too expensive. All right, I remember there was a time when you could fill up, a cart at a grocery store for about $150, $200. But now it's, $300 and something dollars, almost $400. And it's going to get to the point where it's $500, $600, then it's $1,000. And at that point, people won't be able to afford food, which is going to turn into war amongst the people. Reading on, it says, "For many of them that dwell upon the earth shall perish of famine, and the others that escape the hunger shall the sword destroy." Famine is here, and it's about to get worse. All right? Shalom.